We're talking about you.
You're listening to the AVIT Amplifier. Each week, we'll feature voices and ideas that need to be amplified in the higher education and pro-AV IT communities. This show is brought to you by higheredav.com. And now here's your host, Ryan Gray.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the AVIT Amplifier. If it is Wednesday, you know you've come to the right place, and we have another voice to bring to you, and it's gonna be okay, but I'm a little sad about bringing this voice to you because this person 100% has the podcast voice down, and I don't. So, sir, who are you, and what do you do?
It's all right, Mr. Gray.
Oh, yeah. That's
It'll be
good.
okay.
Oh, man.
My name is Tim Albright.
Yes.
And I am the founder and president of AVNation.
And what on earth is AVNation?
AVNation is a media company that serves the higher ed, the enterprise end user, in-house integrator, the folks that are responsible for the front line of AV and IT integration throughout the world, quite frankly. But our main audience is the States, right?
Yeah.
That's where I'm based, is the middle in St. Louis. But we started out as a podcast company when I was a tech manager for a community college just outside of St. Louis, and it's expanded and evolved since then, last 12 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know we can go a couple places, but you've had a number of different roles and involvement in that. But so would you say AVNation is kind of like your baby?
Yes, AVNation is 100% my baby, and there's a lot of baggage that is involved in that statement. We sold an integrator called CTI 3 years ago now. And at the time, I came on as the CMO of CTI as well as running AVNation, kind of in tandem, and found that I don't walk and chew gum well at the same time.
Right.
And at this point, 6 months ago, our boss, John Laughlin, says, you know what, I need you to focus.
Yeah.
Right. And so I went back to running AVNation full time, and a good buddy of mine, Toby Tungle, took over as CMO. He's doing well there. And so, this is my full-time job. As somebody asked me the other day, what do you do?
Yeah.
This is it. We do a handful of podcasts, and I say we because I don't do all of them.
Right.
Erin Mayer-Moran from Hetma and Johns Hopkins, she does our EdTech podcast, right? And really quickly about that, a number of years ago, I actually stopped doing that one because I was no longer a tech manager.
Right.
Right? And when I started it, I was. And it made sense because I had the vision, I had the insight, I was in it every day. And when we took AVNation full time, which was 2016, 2017, somewhere in there, I was no longer a tech manager. I can give you apocryphal, insights, but I'm not in it today, and I sure as heck wouldn't have been able to do it through the COVID.
Right.
Right. I mean, just listening to you, listening to Aaron, listening to other folks, and hearing, quite frankly, the horror stories, right? Of on some random Friday afternoon in March of 2020, your president or chancellor said, "By the way, we're remote on Monday. Good luck this weekend."
Yeah, go make it happen. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, I didn't have that experience. Just hearing it from you guys. So.
Cool. So then. Sorry, I got all off on a tangent there. No, you're good. So, but what you said was kind of like the big question that people ask is, what do you do? So, what do you do?
I don't do anything.
You do a ton.
I tell my kids I shake hands and kiss babies.
Yeah.
Like a daily, weekly basis, right? Bottom line, every Friday at 1 o'clock Central, I record AV Week.
Yeah.
Right. You've been on it. Several other folks from Hetma have been on it. But every single Friday for the last 12 years, with the handful of exceptions, I have recorded a podcast called AV Week. And that is the number one thing that I do.
Yeah.
Right? Tuesdays is my day to focus on getting the stories for said podcast, right? And getting out into the industry and meeting people and getting insights and, connecting with people and providing some commentary on the industry generically, but really the industry, how it impacts the folks that are responsible for this equipment once it gets put in.
Yeah.
Right? I've got a lot of friends that are integrators, right? Our mothership corporation is an integrator.
Yeah.
But one of the things that a lot of integrators forget is there's a day two factor of this system.
Yeah.
And the folks that are impacted by that day two, they need a voice and they need insight to, quite frankly, to do their job better.
Mm-hmm.
Because, okay, great, I've got XYZ control system that runs these 30 labs that you just gave me, that we just paid for.
Right.
But what happens if it doesn't work on, Wednesday? Because I don't care what your service agreement calls for, whether that's 2 hours, 4 hours, or 30 hours. There's a professor who's pissed off because the projector won't come on, and I got to figure that out,
yeah.
right? Or, I get, pulled into a meeting with the chancellor or the president, and they're going to ask me, okay, what's, Brian, what does the next 2 or 3 years in education technology look like,
yeah.
right? Well, you have to have that information,
yeah.
right? And you have to understand let's say, the network impact of AV over IP, mm-hmm. right? How is that going to impact you, and where are the hurdles that you haven't foreseen yet because you haven't done it yet, but this group over here has, right? And you can learn from that. And quite frankly, that's one of the benefits I see of Hetma is the community sharing information and knowledge, right? And that's what we aim to do at AVNation on a different level, right? And in a different way, because we're not technology managers, but bringing that community the stories of other people, right? And the insights from other people. So, I consume a lot of content, I write a lot of content, and I record a podcast.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, and so one of the things that I think we rely on you on, and a lot of the industry does, right, is to see and hear beyond our own individual reach and scope, right?
I would give you that, yeah.
I will hear a story, get a piece of information, find something out because you are covering it. Yeah. You are a media person. You are uncovering
That's
stuff
why we're here this week, right?
So that was my question is, if you hear the background noise, we're at Enterprise Connect and getting the chance to talk in person. So that's why are you here? What have you done this week for the industry as a whole?
That's a really good question. And Enterprise Connect, it got on my radar probably 5 or 6 years ago because of David Danto, right? And Danto at the time, I want to say that he was still working at Dimension Data. This is before he went to Poly HP. And he's like, you got to go to this show. It's an end user show. It's IT managers are there, technology managers are there. And I'm like, hey, David, it's not really, And the more I looked into it, I'm like, okay, there's something here. And then you start looking at the vendors. Mm-hmm. And the videos that we will post after the show, yes, we interviewed Shure. Yes, we interviewed Sennheiser. Yes, the folks that you're going to see at Infocom and ISC. But the questions are slightly different.
Right.
That's because this audience is slightly different, mm-hmm. right? This is not an IT director in Chicago here. It's their boss mm-hmm. or their boss's boss that's here, right? And so we need to understand the new Barco bar, right? The ClickShare bar. What impact is that going to have on the network?
Yeah.
Right? How easily is that going to be to deploy and then to maintain? Because if you are an in-house integrator, you have to understand the deployment part. If you're not, or you do some integration, but for larger deployments, you hire an outside contractor. Great, right? Hire an integrator. Integrators are great, they're a vital part. But again, it goes back to day 2. That's great, right? AVI-SPL comes in and deploys 100 of these things. Mm-hmm. Then day 2 and day 3, okay, well, Chris, Barco came up with a firmware that does, whatever, makes sparkles come out of the thing. Well, how are you as that IT director going to update and maintain 100 of these suckers, right? Well, guess what? Because I interviewed this week, Barco has a piece of software that lets you monitor all of them on the network, right? Jabra has the same thing coming down the pipeline, Shure has it. Right, quite frankly, if you are a manufacturer today, a hardware manufacturer today, and you don't have some sort of maintenance product, some sort of maintenance software, you are missing the boat. That's
For sure.
Sidebar. But we're coming here and we're going, okay, Jabra, what are you doing for this community? What are you doing, Shure? What are you doing, D10, to help the IT and AV managers in their day-to-day job? And we're bringing that back, making videos, because that's one of the things we do.
Yep.
And then post them,
Yep.
right? And then, sitting in on some sessions, I sat in on the Zoom keynote today,
Yeah.
right? I took notes. At the end of today, tomorrow, we're recording this on Wednesday, on Thursday, I'll write a recap of each day and say, this is the stuff we heard, and I will pull out of that Zoom keynote some interesting things that really does impact our community. Now, you've been to this show now. This show is weird because it's half and half UC
Yep.
and call center, right? And there's an evolution happening to this show. So the call center part was part of the Zoom keynote, right? But, and I will probably mention that in not in passing, but a sentence or two about that. But the bigger point, and specifically talking about Zoom here, is they're going after Google Docs,
Yeah.
right? And they're going after Google Workspace. And that does have an impact on, quite frankly, anybody.
Yeah.
Right? I don't care who you are. I don't
Right.
care if you're a doctor's office in Boise. That is going to have an impact on you.
So for you to be able to do that, right? So between things you see on the floor, that Zoom sessions, all that, and synthesize down what is important to your audience,
Yep.
you have to have a good understanding of your audience in order to make sure you're pulling the relevant
One would
pieces out
hope.
there. So, but because of that, I think, I'll ask it. Do you think there's anyone out there who has a better, broad view of the pro AV industry than you do?
We only have a half an hour, Ryan. Yes, there's thousands of people who have a better understanding. So here's the thing, dude. I am self-deprecating on purpose. I'm a Midwesterner by heart.
Yeah.
Right. And is there anybody out there? Maybe I'll give you what you're looking for here. Is there anybody out there that was dumb enough to start a podcast 10 years ago,
right,
and knows more? Probably not, because nobody else did that, right?
Right.
But I have used this line, and I will use it until I retire. I ask smart people dumb questions, and they continue to answer me.
Right.
Right. That, I guess that's probably really how what I do on a daily basis is I ask really smart people really dumb questions, and then I garner stuff from that. Right. And then just the way my brain works, I stitch things together.
Yeah.
Right. And I go, oh, well, this company over here is getting sold, and this company over here is laying people off, but this company over here is hiring people.
Right.
What does that mean to the industry? Right. Right. And you've got 3 or 4 or a dozen disparate pieces of information, right, that rattle around in my brain. Like the scariest, one of the scariest places on earth is my head between 1 and 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a Friday.
Yeah.
Because what I'm doing is I've got 3 really smart people on the other side, right? And they're giving me back information. They're giving me back insight on a topic that we're talking about, a news story. And as they're talking, my brain is doing this, right? And pinging around. And if you ever see me do an interview, even on the podcast, I will have a piece of paper and a pen in my hand at all times. And the reason for that is I learned this years ago by a much more talented interviewer than I am. And he always went into an interview with a legal pad and a pen, because as his interview subject is answering the questions, he is writing out the next question, or the next thread, or the next thing. And so I learned that, good Lord, 20 some odd years ago, because that helps me get out of my head, out of my brain, because it's crazy there, and onto a piece of paper to where I can kind of physically map out, okay, well, this person is saying this, and that person is saying that, and what about this thing I heard 3 weeks ago? And oh yeah, can I say that out loud?
Exactly.
Because was that did I sign an NDA on that? And then physically writing out the questions, and that helps me keep my own craziness a little bit organized in a flow. And I mean, one of the things that the reason we started we about 6 months ago, we started something we called After AV Week, where we record and we post it on our end user LinkedIn thing. Because my piece of paper after a show is chock full of other questions.
Right.
Right? And I try to keep it to half an hour. It's a longer story about why we did that. But so afterwards, I'm like, okay, here's like 4 or 5 questions that I really wanted to ask in addition to the 30-minute that we had. Let's take 5 minutes and dive into one of these, right?
Right.
So that's kind of my process, is to get the crazy out of my head, I put it on paper.
That's awesome. And so do you find, and this is just a random question, do you find that you sometimes get something better in that post 30 minutes?
Oh, absolutely.
Because it's less, is it because it's less structured, or because maybe people have time to synthesize it, or
both.
You've been able to, go like, oh, here was the really interesting thread?
Yeah, so afterwards we have a short conversation. I think we started this after the last time you were on, but Aaron's done it a couple of times. I know. And it's a combination of, I've been able to synthesize the question better, and it was interesting to me, and the question, then I go, okay, is this interesting to the three of you? Right? And then we have a short conversation, and they're able to kind of formulate in their head, oh yeah, that's interesting, or no, that's just stupid, Tim, or whatever it is. But yeah, it gives it, and it's also less structure. Yeah. Right?
Can be more fun. Well,
absolutely.
I would say, I feel like AV Week is the one stop everybody needs to make every week, right?
You're very kind.
But tell me I'm wrong.
You're wrong.
No. If you want to know what's going on, if you want to do it. So here's my AV Week question. You're used to having 3 smart people on that call. So how much harder do you have to work when you've got a zero personality like Joe Way on the show?
I have a rule. I will have anybody, and I do mean anybody, on once. Once. And I don't want anybody to go back and look at 12 years worth of podcasts, because first of all, that's just silly and it would take a long time.
That's a lot. But
the vast majority of our guests, I've had on more than once.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's dumb luck. I don't know if I'm naive. But we have some really, really great folks. We really do. And if you do look back, some of those folks are no longer in the industry, right? That's why we didn't have them on a second time. But I can honestly tell you that in 12 years, there is one person I will not have on again.
Okay.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Right? Math is not my strong suit, but if you multiply 52 times 12 times 3 people, that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Now, there's multiples in there, and people don't know. But I have no comment for Joe.
Okay, because I was hoping you were going to say, and that one person who's not allowed back is Joe.
Joe's been on. I can't tell you how many times Joe's been on.
Yeah. Okay, so then what makes a great guest, or for your show?
That's a good question. First of all, openness, the willingness to talk.
Yeah.
Right. And I have had this conversation more than once, where I'll meet somebody, right, and at Enterprise Connect, I've met 3 people this week, and either I'll hear a talk from them, or just in conversation, and I'm a hammer, everything's a nail.
Yeah.
I want you on my podcast. That's kind of what I do. And if I do that, there's a 50-50 chance that they're going to go, oh, I don't do that, or I don't speak well, or whatever.
Yeah.
And I had a person who I'm not going to throw under the bus or call out. They work for a manufacturer. They were not particularly confident in their ability to talk, right? And they work in a side niche of AV, but they exhibit at Infocom, they exhibit ISE, so you're in AV industry, right?
Yeah.
To me, that's it. And they were like, well, dude, I worked on them for a year, right? I'm like, you just give me a Friday, get this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
And a little behind the curtain, my process is I don't tell you what we're going to talk about because I don't know. My rule is I pick the stories on Tuesday.
Yep.
On Tuesday, that story cannot be older than 10 days old. Right. We work in AV. There's nothing breaking. Right. There's no breaking news. Right. And when it happens, oh baby, it happens.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Samsung buys Harman. There's a breaking news story.
Boom.
Right. There you go. But so I sent the stories out. Had a short conversation with this person, like Tuesday or Wednesday of that week, and she's like, "Well, I don't know about this." I said, "Here's the deal. yes, these are 10 days old, right? These are within that 10-day window.
Right.
This is what I'm thinking, right? Because this person works for a manufacturer. And I said, this is kind of, the angle that I'm going to take with the question with you, because this question, I can ask a manufacturer question, right? Here's an area that you have expertise in. Dude, if I could have this person on every single Friday, I would do it.
Right.
Because they killed it.
Right.
So, yeah, there are folks who are like, they're not comfortable, they say, they're not comfortable speaking in front of people.
Right.
Or they're not doing, they're not comfortable, expressing their opinion. But something magical happens, and I can't explain it.
Right.
And I can't bottle it or quantify it. But the thing about the three smart people, and me asking dumb questions, is they're talking to each other, not to me, right? I'm just there as a decoration piece.
Yeah.
And as a little bit of a prod to say, okay, talk about this. And then they talk.
Yeah.
And the fact that we press record and then we publish it every Monday is just a magical thing to me.
Yeah. We were joking yesterday at a very poorly attended session that we had, but
it was the best session of the week.
I appreciate that. You could write that one up. Just don't mention the number of people who showed up. That's another story for another time.
Yes.
But sometimes, like, the job of the moderator is the best job.
Absolutely it is.
To have.
100%.
Because drawing great stuff out of other people is way better. And I always, like I'm doing it right now, I will fall into the trap of being like, I've got something to say, and blah, 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 when the great content is about, like, someone like you. All right, I've got this overview. I've brought these people together. Now, what's the poke? What's the prod? What's the follow-up that is going to, like, you've got another nugget in there to offer. I can tell. I'm going to draw it out of you. And so when you're trying to do that, how on the nose do you think you can ask a question if you want to lead somebody there, or does it really just have to be, I'm gonna ask for a little more and let it happen?
9 times out of 10, you ask for just a little more. Now, my process is. This developed over 12 years. I didn't start doing this. When I first started, I didn't tell anybody the questions I was going to ask.
Yeah.
Which I got myself in trouble a couple of times doing that. But I'm like, a couple weeks ago we did one on the Russians hacking a Cisco WebEx system, right? And I'm like, okay, so first of all, I get to say Russia hacked a WebEx. So that's cool. That's why we're doing this story.
Yeah.
And so, manufacturer, we're going to ask about this, we're going to ask about security, so you kind of get your brain moving, right? Yeah. But it's in their answer that you get to push a little bit more, right? Because you don't know what they're going to say, and I don't want to know what they say.
Correct. Yeah.
I don't want to know what you're going to say, because I want that to naturally occur. And I want that to naturally occur for 2 reasons. Number one is because of me. I don't want to have a preconceived notion what my follow-up question is going to be.
Right.
That's my process. Other people's like, no, I want to know everything, The second thing is I don't want the guest to know, the other guest.
Right.
Because I want that to spur them as well.
Right. The reaction is sometimes better than the initial. I love it. Yeah. I love it. It makes a good show, and like you said, then it opened that if the answer, like that magical thing that happens where all of a sudden somebody who was shy and didn't want to be there is talking, is because...
And suddenly they're alive.
Exactly.
One really quick thing about that. There are very few things in my life, with the exception of like my family, that is as rewarding as watching someone who didn't think that they were good at talking or didn't have an opinion on something, and watching them come alive. Yeah. It's magical.
Yeah, like they almost black out, and it just flows out of them. I couldn't agree more. I love that part of it. There's a whole higher ed kind of tie in there with the student, like the student that doesn't think they can X, Y, and Z, and all you do is get them in the right environment, and
lights go on,
and things can happen. That I love that. Okay, so turning a little to higher ed, because that's who listens or pays attention. Because I'd love to just have you teach me how to be a professional at doing this, since I'm just
higher
whatever.
Ed?
No, at talking into a microphone.
Oh yes.
And so Hetma's just come past its 5-year anniversary from its founding, which is
Congratulations.
kind of when I love getting congratulations because I didn't come along till like year 3 of that. But you know what I'm saying? I'm willing to claim credit for work that other people have done. I've been doing it a long time, right? The division of labor at my college is they do the work and I take the credit.
Okay,
right? That's how we do that. Yeah. So we've been having that kind of conversation of looking back at the last 5 years. What should the next 5 years be? So from your point of view, looking at the whole industry, seeing what Hetma, that little part that Hetma is now sort of, trying to wedge its way into, what advice would you have for us for the coming 5 years?
So I'll first of all disagree with you about the little part.
Okay.
Right. So you look at, you look at ISE, you look at EdVocom, you look at a number of these shows, and the growing percentage of end users at those shows, right? There's a different conversation about trade shows and their place in the industry, but the fact that the end user presence is increasingly growing, at least it has been the last 5 years. I'll take COVID out of there.
Right.
Now, I'm not smart enough to be able to tell you if that's going to continue. I have no idea. But I can show you the trajectory, right, and the graph that shows you that it's increasing.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's that data point. That means that people who are representing, servicing, talking to, again, those frontline folks that are responsible for either the installation, right, and we can have a conversation about how it's integrated at a later date, or the day 2 service and support of those systems. The people that service and support and talk to and talk for those groups are going to be increasingly important.
Yeah.
So there's a couple things with that. Number one, that means you have a bigger responsibility.
Yeah.
Right? This is not just a dozen folks getting on a Zoom call and complaining about a manufacturer not shipping a product, right?
Right.
This is a bigger deal.
Yeah.
And I don't say that to scare you
No.
or anybody, but you need to take that responsibility, because that's what it is, seriously, right? And understand that you guys are now have a voice. And it's not just talking, on a happy hour on a Friday afternoon with, on a Zoom call. Understanding that voice needs to have a purpose, right? Whether that's talking to the integrators that you do need to partner with, or it's talking with the distributors that, talking about how they can help you, whether that's education or other programs, right? And that's a little bit more outside the U.S. Those distributors have programs, but there are a handful in the States that do,
right,
for the end user. And manufacturers, right? When I was a tech manager, one of my dearest friends, still is one of my dearest friends. He was my A+ rep for Crestron. He no longer works for Crestron. I'm no longer a tech manager, but that's beside the point. And I remember vividly, and he and I both use this story for various purposes, but he walked into my office and he's got this little MPS system, right? This is how long ago this was. Darn near 20 years ago. And he's like, why don't you use Crestron? And I'm like, well, you're this and that and the other, I don't know how to program, and it costs me, $1,000 an hour to hire a programmer. And he's like, well, what if we taught you?
Yeah.
And I stopped. And I'm like, you would do that?
Right.
He goes, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so I've told that story several times, and in the context of manufacturers are there to support all of their customers, right? They need their dealers, right? Absolutely. You're not going to buy a DMPS now on Amazon and integrate it. You're just not going to do it. Right? It's not how the channel works. It's not the model that Crestron, in this specific case, wants to be in, right? So they need the dealers. And those folks, they've got talented individuals that spend hours upon weeks in training on a specific line, right? There's some specialities there that you're not going to have at least my college, right? Bigger universities, we can have that conversation, but the vast majority of the colleges and universities are where I was, right? 400, 500 rooms, and we didn't have budget to save our life, right? So those manufacturers and their education is really important. Your conversation with those manufacturers is going to be incredibly important, and helping them drive two things. Number one is the innovation that they need to develop, right? Listening to you. But the second part is that continuing education that you guys need, and telling them that you need that, right? Telling the integrator, look, this is how we need you to be a partner to us, right? We're not looking to get rid of you guys. We need you, we want you, we love you. But this is the type of partner that we need, right? And having those hard conversations, but having them, period, is incredibly important for the entire AV ecosystem.
I love it. It's, you need to occupy your place in the industry, take it seriously, and understand that, like, we have a responsibility to the industry because we are just as dependent upon people bringing great technology to bear for our users as they are dependent upon us to buy it from them.
Absolutely.
I love that answer. I think that's fantastic. Well, dude, a half hour goes in a hurry.
Was that it?
When you're
sweet.
Hey now. So before we go, Tim, how would people find you, and how would they find the content that AVNation brings their way?
I am contractually obligated to say you can't find me on any social media platform, but go by the website, AVNation.tv.
Everybody, go by the website, AVNation.tv. You'll see great stuff there, including, and I love to talk about, Erin Marmoran's
She's awesome.
Ed Tech podcast.
Yep.
And we're not saying that just because she's standing like right there.
Well, she has a baseball bat.
Oh, dear God. Okay, we're okay. Tim, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for listening to the AV IT Amplifier. Join us again for next week's episode when we'll welcome a new guest who you'll want to hear from. We promise. Your host has been Ryan Gray. He's on the tweeters at Ryan_A_Gray, or find him on LinkedIn to connect. Please subscribe and give the show a rating and review wherever you get your podcasts. This show is brought to you by HigherEdAV.com. The views expressed here are not necessarily those of our respective institutions, employers, or sponsors. Everyone hang in there, go easy, and we'll be back next week.